While here at Wilson County Hyundai, it's draft week. The draft is tomorrow, so it's draft eve. And we're here to talk about a big rumor that doesn't really have a lot to do with this draft. But Julio Jones is on the trade block, apparently, or is at least being shopped around, or teams are calling the Falcons about wide receiver Julio Jones. And the Titans seem to be right in the mix of those Julio Jones trade rumors. And there's a big factor about all of this that we're going to talk about today. We're going to ask you guys, are you for or against the Titans trying to trade for Julio Jones? What would that trade price be? Then we've got a draft question about the running back position and what will happen based off of our live mock draft yesterday, Zach, that you did, that I think threw our mock draft for a loop. But we'll talk about it.
But it could be correct.
We'll talk about it.
Could be correct.
Maybe.
Everybody calling, this guy didn't know anything about the draft.
Chris Stress called you out saying
I could be laughing in your face, Chris Stress, on Friday. Could happen. So get ready.
We'll see. But it is Wednesday, which means we will end today's show with Throwing Shade here live at Wilson County Hyundai, one of our favorite places to be. So let's get this thing going, because tomorrow and today, really the rest of the week, is going to be slam-packed with great content. So, Zach, let's get this thing going.
Yeah, before we get started, first want to thank our good friends at Wilson County Hyundai. We talk about the Palisade, the Sonata, the Elantra. This is where you can get it. Prime time, baby. Payne Bone and his team will hook you up with a great, great ride. Before we get started, though, please share the show. We are broadcasting live on Twitch, on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Got a ton of different streams going, and you guys have taken to that very nicely. Make sure you retweet us on Twitter. We need to pop up your Twitter follower timeline. Also on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is very important. Live notifications on. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you find out where you can put your live notifications on, because we will have draft specials when and around the Titans pick over the next couple of days. We'll talk more about our draft coverage tomorrow, but stay locked, because we want to hear your opinions when you hear that sound and Roger Goodell go up to the podium and tell exactly who the Titans are going to pick. We're going to react immediately after that. So make sure your live notifications are on. Facebookers, what's going on? More people will pile in over the next 5 to 10 minutes. As you guys do, please share the show. Bottom left corner of your screen, share now to public. Sharing is caring. Austin, live from Wilson County Hyundai. Let's get this party started.
I had to blow the pollen off my computer.
Nobody cares about your allergies.
Get going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered by BetMGM. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. We are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, and we go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time. Got to thank our sponsors, because they make it happen for us, and they help out you guys. Renters Warehouse, Nashville, renterswarehouse.com to find out how much your home can rent for. Mandu, the Pulse of Fitness, mandu.com. Your first workout is free. It's a 15-minute workout. Do it, mandu.com. Wilson County Hyundai, that's where we are today. Head out here to Lebanon, wilsoncountyhyundai.com for your new ride. Calvin and Settle for your brand new hardwood floors and finishings at calvinandsettle.com. And then the Bone and Joint Institute will be there tomorrow. boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. So, Julio Jones, the Falcons, with their new head coach, they've been getting calls, picking up the phone with teams saying, Julio Jones, how much? We're kind of interested. So, Zach, how do you feel about this story that's now a couple days old after Peter King really kind of put this out there on Monday morning?
Well, the one thing that we knew about the Atlanta Falcons, and when Arthur Smith went there, we kind of took a diagnosis of what their roster was. They were offensive heavy, right, with contracts and big-time players. They drafted Calvin Ridley, we know that, but Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, which have been their superstars of the last couple of years, and when they made it to the Super Bowl 28-3, that was a big part of that run with Kyle Shanahan as offensive coordinator at the time. But when you sign contracts, Father Time is undefeated, and those contracts, as the time goes on, the value of them change. And I feel like Arthur Smith and Atlanta are in a situation where they have two aging superstars that are being vastly overpaid. They're being overcompensated for their services that they are providing. The Falcons have not been good over the last couple of years. So I think this is not a surprise that the Falcons would, and plus they have a brand new general manager.
Yeah.
So that makes a big
Well,
difference.
because the GMC's Julio Jones having cap hits over the next 3 years of 23, 19, and 19.
It's hindering the new GM from making the roster his own. And that's how any new manager is. If you've ever been in business or you've been in a workplace and you got a new manager, you hold on to your panties because they're going to come in there and they're going to change a lot of things. And it may be you that they change. So Julio Jones, I still believe can play, but I did think it was very interesting of what Peter King put out there regarding the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, so let's show you guys what Peter King posted Monday. Keep an eye on Atlanta. I can't predict any bombshells, but a few things would not surprise me. Most notably, the Falcons putting the framework of a trade for star wideout Julio Jones, making the trade effective June 2nd. That way, Atlanta could split Jones's cap charge between this year and next year instead of getting bashed with all of it this year, which is like $40 million of dead cap. If a trade happens, it could expect the future picks. Nothing this year, but the teams, right? He said, as for interested teams, I would guess Las Vegas. Gruden couldn't resist Antonio Brown. I doubt he can resist Julio. New England, too, and a couple teams with clear receiver needs. Tennessee and Baltimore. Zach, that lit everybody in Titans social media, seeing Tennessee and Baltimore for Julio Jones. What was your reaction to seeing Peter King say that?
Well, look at what he actually said, though. And this, I have to read the words.
Sure.
He really just stated fact by saying a couple of teams with clear wide receiver needs. I think that was the key to me. Do Baltimore and Tennessee have clear wide receiver needs?
Yeah.
Yes. So he was just stating fact. I think it wasn't a prediction of the Titans are going to be involved or calling about Julio Jones. I think he was just trying to connect the dots. And so I respect Peter King. I've met Peter King. He's good at what he does, and he has been for a long, long time. And he's very ingrained in the NFL circuit. I think Tennessee, they have to look at their cap space in trading for this, right? And John Robinson, I think this is one thing Titans love. John Robinson is a wheeler and dealer. He is willing to deal and trade, but it has to make sense for his franchise and the future of his franchise. So you got to think about what are you going to give up. Julio Jones, and this is where I'm curious, Austin, what do you think about Julio Jones as the football player, okay? Taking into consideration his age, let's take contract off the table, though. I want to get your opinion, Austin. Do you think Julio still can play at a high level? Is he still a top 5 wide receiver? These are all questions that I would pose to you.
He is not. He is no longer a top 5 wide receiver. There are just other guys that are younger. Julio's just turned 32 years old. So there are a lot of guys. He played 9 games last year, 51 catches for 700 plus yards. He doesn't score touchdowns at the rate that other players do. Like, he's got a whole lot of 1,400-yard receiving seasons with 6-8 touchdowns when he's catching the ball over 100 times.
So timeout. Doesn't that pair very well with a guy that does score touchdowns by the name of Derrick Henry and by the name of A.J. Brown? Those two guys, when I say those two names, does score touchdowns. If Julio can get you within the 10 or the 15 or the 5, they got players, the Titans do, to get past the pylon.
Your boy Chris says, I'll take 1,400 yards if AJ scores.
Right? So I don't disagree completely because there are facts.
Right? The fact is that Julio Jones does not score touchdowns at a high rate based on how many balls he catches.
But neither did Corey Davis last year. Corey Davis, not a touchdown guy.
You had a big problem with that.
Not a touchdown
guy. Right,
guy.
But you have a big problem with Corey Davis not catching.
Well, you know what also I got a big problem with Corey Davis is? He also is not a 1,000-yard receiver as the 5 overall pick.
Let alone,
Julio Jones is.
Let alone 1,400 yards in several seasons.
Right, so it's a huge difference. He can't even get to 1K. He can't even get the necklace.
The massive factor in all of this, because we have to get to that, is the June 2nd situation. Because the Falcons are not going to do anything that's official until after June 2nd, when they can split the cap for multiple years, which means this draft is out of it. There's nothing the Titans or any other NFL team will trade in this draft for Julio Jones. It's all future stuff. So we'll talk about specific price here in a second. But Zach, let's go ahead and get this question out there and just ask the people. Are you for or against the Titans trying to trade for Julio Jones? Are you for or against the Titans trying to trade for Julio Jones? But first, let me tell you guys about Renters Warehouse and renterswarehouse.com. They're the professional landlords in the area at renterswarehouse.com. Go there to find out how much your home can rent for and all the other things that Renters Warehouse can do for you and your family. Create extra cash flows, long-term equity, which means long-term wealth, upgrading, downsizing if you're currently renting. Those are just a few things. Renterswarehouse.com is where to go.
We are broadcasting live from Wilson County Hyundai, right in the parking lot, right in the streets. We're feeling the streets, baby. These streets that I dominate with my Hyundai Sonata. You can also dominate online betting sports, BetMGM. Austin's rocking the BetMGM. They are the title sponsor of this morning show. Use promo code A to Z 100. This is a huge deal. ATOZ100 for the draft. We got specials going on. $1 bet for new users. If a quarterback is taken number one overall,
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. You get $100. $1 turn into $100. New users use the promo code ATOZ100. That's $100. That's big time Benjamin.
Literally
baby.
giving you $100.
BetMGM, download the app today.
All right, so are you for or against the Titans trading or trying to trade for Julio Jones? Zach, I'm going to send you to the comment section real quick. There's a lot of guys, a lot of comments flying in. So what are the people saying?
So Gmail Bay says against, too old, too much money. We can get more bang for our buck elsewhere. Chris Stressos says I'm for it because I doubt he'll be a high asking price from us as far as the trade goes. He can only make the Titans better. Brent says they'll probably come to the Titans and play like Randy Moss and Andre Johnson at the end of their career.
Those two guys were a lot older and a lot more washed up when they came to Nashville than Julio Jones is right now.
Gregor Man says against unless J-Rob completely messes this draft up.
Pause. That's not a bad comment there, Greg, because we don't know what's going to happen. Like the Titans might solve their holes at wide receiver in the draft this upcoming weekend and not need Julio Jones for the price, right?
You would not know if the Titans messed up the draft
until the season. Fair.
So that's what I would say. CL
the
Jackson says I'm for it. Nate says for. Steven says for. Griffin says against. Jamie says for with about 14 exclamation points. Scott says, honestly, I'm on the fence. He can't make up his mind. I think it depends on the price if you're talking about Scott. Paul says for, but can the Titans afford him? So, look, there's some mixed emotion. I think this justifies that it's a good question. Louis says against, price too high, and he's getting long in the tooth, talking about his age. 4 from Ronnie, and Marquis says 4. Austin, where do you go in this question? Are you for or are you against?
So, you mentioned talking about Peter King's stuff and how you respect Peter King and what Peter King's doing and how you said specifically the words that he used. I think people are freaking out about a whole lot of nothing because another name mentioned in that paragraph by Peter King was Antonio Brown. And the Titans were also in these same type of conversations about Antonio Brown a couple of years ago. Remember, like, we were doing shows talking about should the Titans go after Antonio Brown? We were, because guys like Peter King saying
it's apples and oranges.
No, it's not really.
It really
because
is.
Here but it's not.
It
because
is completely different.
Well, because you don't know my reasoning yet, Zach. So if you want to assume what's my reasoning?
Well, you were saying that so this is what I think you're going to say based on your previous statement is that the Titans always kind of so I was correct.
But it's not apples and oranges. It's the same thing. It's not apples.
Bada bing.
Zach, it's not apples and oranges. It's the same thing. The Titans are always
based
willing.
On that it is.
No, it's not. The Titans are always willing to pick up the phone or at least find out what the price might be.
Here's the difference.
Whether it's a trade or whether it's a free agent, they're going to kick the tires to do their due diligence, to be prepared and educated on what something might look like.
I'll tell you the difference. When did those rumors start swirling about Antonio Brown?
During free agency, when he was a free agent.
Right?
This is right before the draft when trades typically happen.
Here is the difference. They had Corey Davis under contract. There was not a glaring hole in their roster at the wide receiver
There was
position.
a glaring
no,
hole
no,
in
no,
the
no,
roster.
no.
This was
Incorrect.
pre-A.J. Brown.
Incorrect. Are you talking about last year?
This was 2 years ago.
You said last year.
I said the last couple of years.
You said last year.
I did not. Antonio Brown was not. It was 2 years ago, damn it. Like, what the hell? Antonio Brown to the Raiders was 2 years ago, pre-A.J. Brown. Like, do you not remember that? That's what I'm saying. I did not say Antonio Brown last year. I was talking about Antonio Brown post-Steelers breakup meltdown.
I think this year, this has some legs, and this is a something, not a nothing compared to that.
I think it's a nothing.
Because, no, the Titans don't have a wide receiver that's worth a damn on their roster besides A.J. Brown.
But we
don't know what Josh Reynolds is going to be. Like, and the funny thing, Josh Reynolds tweeting out, like, y'all going to doubt me? Well, yeah, we are going to doubt you because you have not proven based on opportunity, fair, right?
And the contract you signed. Like, the reason why people are doubting Josh Reynolds is because he signed for $1.75 million in a one-year deal. If he signed for more, then we'd say, okay, you probably expect more from Josh Reynolds because they're paying him more.
And thank you, Fatty Mac. You did say last year.
I said the last couple of years.
I mean, we have confirmation.
I did not say last year. I said the last couple of years.
We literally have confirmation from the chat. So that's beside the point. You think that this is a nothing.
I think this is a nothing.
You think there's no chance, such as what you got, no chance in hell that this could happen?
I do not think this is going to happen. I'm never going to say never, but it's nothing to me. It's like 0.5%. Like, the Titans will not trade for Julio Jones.
All right, I think that this is something. I'm not predicting that it will happen, but I do think that it is something because of a couple of reasons. We talk about connections. Arthur Smith being the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons is something. The fact that he just left the Tennessee Titans and the relationship he had with John Robinson and Mike Vrabel is something. The fact that they have a glaring wide receiver need on their roster is something. The fact that the Falcons are trying to trade away
the Falcons are
their
not
best.
The Falcons are not trying to trade. The report is the Falcons have received calls. It doesn't, like, receiving calls and making calls is very different. Very different.
The Falcons, for the right deal, I believe, my opinion, would gladly get Julio Jones's contract off of their books because they have the 4th overall pick, in which a lot of people are predicting Kyle Pitts to go.
Right.
So there's your replacement. So it does make sense.
It makes sense for the Falcons of why they're receiving phone calls.
Or why they would want to trade him.
I'm not saying that logic is wrong. I'm saying that the reports are that the Falcons have received calls, not been making calls.
So
your logic is right. I agree.
Because I think in logic. That is
do
my
too,
whole premise.
Okay, we get that. But the fact is, the Falcons have received calls.
All right, so
which is different.
I am for this. Obviously,
the Titans trying for this
at the right price, right? I mean, you have to disclose that.
Oh, but I do that for Jadeveon Clowney.
Well, you were dead wrong on Jadeveon
Clowney. No. Calm down.
You were.
When I say I would hold time out. That's not what I'm talking about. Because what I said was I would be okay with re-signing Clowney at the right price. You flipped your lid when I said that. And now, so you're saying you would be okay trading for Julio Jones at the right price, which I agree with because that's logical.
The complete difference of that is Jadeveon Clowney being inside of the locker room for a year and the Titans not re-signing him because they know who Jadeveon Clowney is. That's why I flipped my lid, Austin. And I know you're present at that show because I was talking to you. So I don't know why you keep going back to Jadeveon Clowney when you got clown-faced on that.
That was completely separate.
We digress back to the conversation we're talking about, which is Julio Jones. He will demand a very high price. That is the difference between Clowney and Julio. Julio is still making plays. Like Jadeveon Clowney coming from the Seahawks 2 years ago to the Titans, his production was not there. Julio Jones's production is still there. Is it the same as it was 4 years ago? No, but it's still there in a big way. So you cannot compare the two. Julio Jones is a separate entity. I am curious to see how much Julio Jones will demand as far as these trade conversations.
Right. So I'm trying to do some math real quick.
So those are two separate things.
Right. So because it's about price of trade, right? So What would you be willing to give up for the Falcons for Julio Jones? And then how much can the Titans afford the contract that Julio Jones has, right?
And I also I want to say this. Nate says Josh Reynolds is Zach's new Corey Davis. Actually, the opposite. I want Josh Reynolds to thrive. I want to be so right on Corey Davis, I can feel it in my peaches. That's what I want. Because I want Josh Reynolds to thrive because he bet on himself. $1.7 million for a one-year contract is kind of asinine, but maybe that's what the market yielded. He got the opportunity. I want Josh Reynolds to thrive and prove that maybe he is a bigger time receiver than the Rams are giving him credit for.
Right.
And I think he can. You talk about a chip on his shoulder. Josh Reynolds, Austin, you and I both believe that the Titans will draft over Josh Reynolds this year. Tomorrow.
They have to.
Right? So
maybe tomorrow, maybe Friday.
So that puts a lot of pressure on Josh Reynolds to say, man, I just signed with your team. You said you wanted me. You signed me to a contract, but then all of a sudden you took a first or a second or a third round pick to play beside me or replace me, right? So I'm cheering on record. I'm cheering for Josh Reynolds.
All right, so I've tried to rework some of the contract numbers for Julio Jones because you guys have brought up, like, can the Titans even afford to pay his salary, right? Can the Titans afford to take on that contract of what I think they would be taking on if the Falcons trade Julio Jones away? So we'll get to this, and we'll ask you this question right now. What would you be willing to trade to the Falcons for Julio Jones? But first, Zach,
now we're getting down to brass
Now
tacks.
we're getting into it. But first, Zach, tell everybody where we're at. Wilson County Hyundai.
Wilson County Hyundai. We got Hyundai everywhere. I feel at home. This is home. I'm coming home. I am home. This is Wilson County Hyundai. I drive a Hyundai, and I absolutely love it. You see that Hyundai sign right in the background? This is where you need to be when you're buying a brand new vehicle. If you're buying a used vehicle, they got them on the lot. I'll tell you that. We are surrounded. Elantras, Sonatas, Palisades. The 2021 Palisade is, I think, in my opinion, the best SUV in that realm. In that price range, it pops. It's got third row seating. It's got bucket seats. It's got all the bells and whistles, and they'll hook you up with a great price. Quick trip down I-40. Austin, we basically zipped here.
I love the drive. The drive is great.
Zip right here, exit 236. It's right off the interstate, not far. WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
A to Z Sports. I'm wearing the shirt today. BetMGM. Download the app. Special draft offer. Listen up. They're trying to give you free $100. If you sign up today or tomorrow, use the code ATOZ100. That's ATOZ100. And you draft or you place any $1 bet, just $1 bet on any NFL draft bet, regardless of the outcome of that, you're going to get $100. Why? Because a quarterback is going to go number one overall. That's the biggest given ever. A QB is going to go number one overall. You're going to get $100 if you download the BetMGM app today and use our code ATOZ100 for today and tomorrow. Take advantage of that. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. You must be 21 years or older, must be present in Tennessee, and for gambling problem support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789.
All right, Brandon Oaks brings up a big-time caveat,
Okay.
and Brandon Oaks says, pretty sure he cannot be traded prior to this year's draft. So, Austin, confirm that.
So, he could be, but the Falcons would take on – it would be stupid if that were the case because the Falcons would have to pay like $40 million of Julio Jones to not play for them if they traded.
So that's not going to happen.
Right. So June 2nd is the date where the Falcons can split up the cap hit across multiple years. So the Falcons would be idiots to trade him for this draft. So June 2nd is obviously after this draft. So this draft, you have to look at future draft picks, whatever that might be. So you're trading next year's draft
and
picks.
That's not advantageous for the Falcons. The Falcons would have much rather used, if you want to get rid of a guy, you want to get picks for him now, in my opinion.
Well, the Falcons are in a different situation because new head coach, new GM, they're worried about long-term, right?
That's why, but I still think that you would rather, because this is your first year, this is important to kind of build your foundation.
Then you're either going to keep Julio Jones and pay him to play for you or trade for him after June 2nd so you can spread out the money.
All right, so what would you be willing I guess first of all, would you be willing to trade anything for him?
I mean, yeah.
Or are you gonna? You can't give me a bad deal though.
Well, like,
don't give a bad deal.
I'm not going to go any higher than a fourth round pick.
Okay. So Austin, you cannot be a part of this conversation because that is ridiculous.
Well, I'm telling you.
It's like
Zach.
It's like me selling you this Hyundai.
I answered the first question
$2.
and it said I was against this entire thing. Like I answered
but
it
that's
that
why
way.
I just asked you the question. You
right, and so I
there's
answered
no
it.
way.
I answered it honestly. But fourth round pick. I'll call the Falcons like other teams are doing. Say, hey, fourth round pick next year. What do you think? And they can tell me no, then I'm fine.
No, that's a slap in the face. You'll never do business with them again.
Then I'm not going to make the call. Then that's fine.
So then admit that.
I've already.
Nobody's going to sell you a Hyundai for $4.
Zach, I've already admitted that I'm against this entire thing. I've already admitted that.
Okay.
So I answered your question.
There is no realistic deal that you would be ever able to do.
Yeah.
Just say that. Then.
Okay. Then, but
don't try to give me a fourth round BS pick.
I don't know what he's worth. We don't know what he's worth. He's 32 years old.
Austin, you know he's not worth a fourth round pick. Don't play stupid.
Brent says fourth round pick, no more, no less.
He's not worth a fourth round pick. It is it's. And Jeff, I don't know why the deals just don't make sense.
What?
When you throw these out?
Because I'm not willing to pay Julio Jones this.
So you're not willing to make the call. If I was willing to make the call, I'm not going to give up a future first round pick.
Hell no.
So I'm starting at the top and I'm saying what I'm not going to do. I would give up a future second. So here's my issue, and here's where I think there's things that will be hung up. I think the Atlanta Falcons want a player on top of draft picks for Julio Jones. And in particular, I think the Atlanta Falcons want a good defensive player.
The Titans don't have those to trade away.
Right. And so I think that's where it starts to get messy. But a second round pick for Julio Jones, I'm willing to talk. And I think there's a huge difference between a second and a fourth.
Well, Zach, what's the best round that John Robinson's been drafting in over the last 6 years?
That I don't care about. That's
the second round. He's found your superstars in the second round.
Well, he also drafted Kevin Dodd.
Okay, but he drafted Derrick Henry 13 spots later, and it worked out okay.
I mean, the round doesn't matter history-wise. It's about the draft. Okay, it's about the draft. John Robinson would tell you that.
I'm not going to give up a second-round pick next year for Julio Jones. No. He's 32 years old. You're going to have to pay him a lot of money to be your second wide receiver. Because AJ is number one. Julio Jones on this roster, AJ Brown's number one.
Imagine what could be done there, though. Imagine what could be done.
Yeah, but again, like I don't care. I don't want Julio Jones for the price it's going to cost. It doesn't make sense to me. The Titans are going to have to pay him like $22 million. I'm sorry, or more than that. A lot of money over the next 3 years, to like $22 million plus over the next 2 years. And I don't think that's the right move for the Tennessee Titans. They have to pay A.J. Brown next year. I'm putting Julio Jones money in a trade to A.J. Brown and going to draft a wide receiver that's cheaper than Julio Jones, that has a better opportunity to grow with this offense.
And I understand that philosophy. And I think John Robinson is more likely to take the philosophy of, hey, we don't need Julio right now. It is a Super Bowl window.
It is, but a 32-year-old receiver,
and Julio Jones wants to go to a team that is vying for a Super Bowl.
Of course he does, but a 32-year-old receiver who missed almost half of the season last year with injuries, I'm not up for that. Like, you can't afford to sign another aging player who gets hurt. And Julio Jones at this point is that. You can't afford that. You have to draft younger, get younger and cheaper who can be productive immediately. That's why this draft is so important. And I know you're not giving up anything with this draft, but next year's draft is also going to be important because you have to start reloading because you can't afford to re-sign a bunch of players again.
And honestly, the biggest issue Damari McReynolds brings up is you got another big problem. Who would give up number 11? Because you have A.J. Brown, who has always looked up to Julio Jones. And Julio Jones, if he came to the Titans, 11 has been his digits. I believe what would happen, I think that Julio would relinquish, let A.J. Brown keep
Man.
11, and Julio would go number 1. Or he could go back to 8,
Julio
which was
Julio was 8 in college, and now everybody can bring out their 8 jerseys from their closets and
and AJ brought up something very important. Julio wouldn't be able to go 1 because of Warren Moon.
Correct, yeah.
So it's somewhat of a deal.
And AJ would probably give up number 11.
I don't think Julio would let AJ give up 11. I think it's a passing of the baton.
It would be like
an Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It would be such an annoying conversation to witness. He's like, "No, man, you have it." No, like, "No, you have it." No.
But you're my idol.
But I insist.
But you're my idol.
I insist, and you're like, and it just goes on forever. And it's like, guys, stop it. Just both wear 11. It doesn't matter.
You can't do that.
I know, right? But like that's how I would feel that conversation would go. I insist. You take it. No, I think there is very, very, very slim chance that the Titans are interested in actually pulling a trigger for a Julio Jones trade.
Julio is a type of receiver who could pull off number 0.
Yes. Well, both guys are.
Yeah,
they're both 0 attitudes. Like they're the Gilbert Arenas Agent 0 type of confidence. Confidence, not the player. Confidence.
Wait, is that a compliment or is that disrespectful?
The confidence that Gilbert. Nobody questioned
the confidence of Gilbert Arenas.
Nobody questioned Gilbert Arenas' confidence. It was all about.
Well, yeah, the man brought a gun to the locker room.
It was decision making. That's the issues with Gilbert Arenas. On the court and off the court decision making for Agent 0 there. So
I gotta love that.
Yeah, that was. You don't have Gilbert Arenas drops every day that make a lot of sense. So. Here's what I think the contract situation would be. Julio Jones, the Falcons would have to pay him $23 million against their cap after trading him over the next 2 years. The Titans would take on $17 million in dead money and then extra of his salary. So the Titans would take on a lot of money, and that is a big player in this. The salary cap next year is going to go up a lot because of new TV money, and we're getting out of COVID. But the Titans, I don't know if they can afford what it would do to their cap this year. They would have to restructure, which they can't do.
So speaking of salary cap, this is very interesting, and then we can move on to another interesting conversation. But if you look at what the New England Patriots did this year, they spent the most amount of money in free agency in the history of the NFL. And I get inflation, but they had the cap space this year. How coincidental that Bill Belichick gets that opportunity, and then the next several years he's going to get more money.
Yeah.
Like the strategy that he can use, and he's going to draft a quarterback this year,
maybe,
to build for the future. I mean, he will.
He should, but we don't know if he will or not. They haven't picked a quarterback in the first round in a long time.
Do you want to make a wager on that?
No, I don't. I'm just saying we don't know for a fact. Like you keep speaking in absolutes when you can't speak in absolutes about the draft.
I will about that. That's why I'm willing to bet on it.
I'm not willing to bet on it. I'm just saying you can't speak in absolutes about the draft. He should draft the quarterback for the future.
I'll put something on the line.
Say it that way.
I did. Well, now that's where we.
Then I agree with you. If you say he should, then I agree with you. I'm just saying
we're here. That's why
I'm saying don't speak in absolutes.
That's
whenever
why
you speak in absolutes,
I'm willing to put some skin in the game, baby.
That's fine. Great. That doesn't involve me.
I can.
It doesn't. Doesn't have to.
You want to go puka shell for a week?
I do not, because I think he also should draft a quarterback for the future.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about drafting. I think there's a very interesting conversation to be had about a certain position in this first round, and we're going to talk about it in a second. But first, let me tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. When you get injured or someone in your life that you love gets injured, you care about them, make sure you know where to turn for the best care possible in the mid-state. That is the Bone and Joint Institute in Franklin. They've got over a dozen doctors who specialize in anything that can go wrong physically with your body. They've got every resource in one location. Check them out there, boneandjointtn.org.
It is esports. We are powered by BetMGM. Sawyer has a good question that I am going to answer. Sawyer says on Twitch, so you have to live in Tennessee to get that 100 on BetMGM. That is correct.
Yep.
ATOZ 100. Sign up for BetMGM. You have to be in the state of Tennessee. That's just regulation. It's state regulation.
It's
not our fault. That's just It's really the state's law's fault. So blame the government. But don't blame BetMGM because they're giving you $100 if you are within the state and a quarterback is drafted number 1 overall. It's going to happen. Trevor Lawrence is probably going to go number 1. I can speak in absolutes, can I? In that?
Well, technically because of the promotion.
I'll put $100.
Okay.
I'll put $100 down.
Then you're going to win basically nothing because I think Trevor Lawrence number 1 is minus 10,000. So you can do the odds.
Probably not a good bet.
You want to win a couple of cents.
Probably not a good bet. A good bet is to download the app and use promo code ATOZ100. Put $1 down. You're going to win $100 if a quarterback is taken number 1 overall. You do the math.
Here's this though. Here's a pick. Here's a gambling bet on the draft that I think is very interesting. The over/under for running backs in the first round, BetMGM has it at 1.5. Over 1.5 is the underdog at plus 170. Under 1.5 is the favorite at minus 225. So, Zach, here's the question. How many running backs go in the first round? 1, 2, or 0? We did our first round mock live with you guys yesterday on the show. And Zach, you picked Najee Harris, 18th overall to the Miami Dolphins.
And the Bills went to Travis
Etienne. And the
Etienne.
Bills at 30 went Travis Etienne in our mock. Both of those were your picks. Right?
Yeah.
So I have a feeling of where you would put your money on this.
2.
Which over 1.5 plus 170. That's probably the best underdog to bet.
I think so.
In the first round.
Well, is Mac Jones underdog yet? Still? Mac Jones 3? I think that's the best bet in the
Mac Jones is still the favorite.
Plus what?
He's
minus.
I'll have to find that.
Where you at, Big Ten Jeff? Where you at? Puka over here is going to talk to you as well.
How about this? The exact outcome for picks 1 through 3 of Lawrence, Wilson, Mac Jones is minus 250.
Right. That's so.
Lawrence, Wilson, Trey Lance plus 240.
Yeah, I'll take Mac Jones all day with those Key West Puka shells. I'll go 2. I think they're going to get needy, especially because look, I thought that Clyde Edwards-Helaire last year, that was a big boost for the Chiefs. I mean, and he got hurt at the end of the season.
Right.
And I mean, I remember that play. I thought that he was going to be done for the season, but he sat out a few weeks. He came back. But that was a great pick towards the end of the first round last year for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Dolphins need a running back, and I think the Bills need a running back. Those 2 picks make the most sense to me.
But the Bills could go in a lot of directions there.
They could, but they are running back needy. Who's the running back last year? Was Singletary or
Devin Singletary?
Yeah.
Yeah, who's like a 4th round pick from a couple of years ago.
They need somebody to help Josh Allen. It's the same thing of Tua.
Well,
they need somebody to help Tua.
Well, who's the first guy? Because, what if, there's a chance the Dolphins probably don't need Najee Harris at 18.
But they have so many picks.
Right.
That's where I'm heading.
But it's 18, right? So 18, I think, is too high for Najee Harris.
They could trade back.
Right. So, but what if the Dolphins also have a high pick I guess they have a middle pick in the 2nd round, so they don't have a high pick. But they have an opportunity to draft the 2nd round running back that could be very effective for them after, a pass catcher in the top 6.
It does drop off after Najee Harris and Travis Etienne.
There's the North Carolina kid, Williams, who's viewed very highly in this.
But there's a drop off.
Right. But the Dolphins.
And you're not dropping off to Derrick Henry. That was a drop off because he fell to the 2nd round. Who was the 1st round picks in Derrick Henry's draft? That's actually a good question.
I believe that was Zeke.
Right. Zeke value. There's a drop off, but we're not talking about a drop off to a Heisman Trophy winner like Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry got a bad rap just because of, I don't know. It was head scratching to me. I remember when he was drafted, I was like, what the hell is he doing this late in the 2nd round?
Zeke was the only running back drafted in the 1st round, and Derrick Henry was the 2nd running back.
Okay. So that was the drop off.
It was from 4th overall to 45th.
So I think Etienne and Harris have a lot of good value. I'm going 2. Where are you going? I think I know.
I would say under.
You're going to go 1.
Yeah, because I think the Dolphins are going to go. I think they're going to go offensive weapon first, at 6. If Kyle Pitts falls to him, or they trade up to get Kyle Pitts, they're going to go there. Or if not, a wide receiver. At 18, I think they have to go defense because they trade away or they cut, I guess, Kyle Van Noy. They need somebody at the edge. I think that's where they can find an edge rusher. So I think the Dolphins.
Maybe a Miami guy.
Maybe.
You never know.
If Jalen Phillips is there, or Kwity Paye.
I like there's also the bet of the 2 Miami players going in the first round. And that's plus money, I do know.
I would not do that because Gregory Rousseau is not going to do it.
I think he will drop.
He's dropped big time. He was awful in his pre-draft pro day.
And what, he's 6'7", isn't he?
I don't know if he's that. I think he's like 6'5".
He's listed as 6'7".
Well, he's okay.
I always doubt like 6'7" guys on the edge.
He looks like, I think Tehran said this one day, that he looks like a baby giraffe.
Yeah, he needs meat on the bone.
Yeah, well, he needs to grow into his body.
Jalen Phillips, not the case. Jalen Phillips is a rock. If the Titans land Jalen Phillips, that is, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I like that though. So we got a lot of talk before they actually pick. But if they are so lucky to get Jalen Phillips out of Miami, you talk about rock solid, baby, rock steady. Jalen Phillips out of the U.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
Chris Stress asked, "What did Rousseau do bad?" I think that's what you're talking about, Rousseau. He just was not explosive at all, and not coordinated looking. Like he looked uncoordinated. Chuba Hubbard. So back to the running backs. Do you like Harris more than Etienne?
Yeah, but I think they're interchangeable. I think Harris will get drafted over Etienne, but I think both can be solid running backs in this league.
All right, Zach, let's get to it. Throwing shade here on this Wednesday, but first tell everybody about Calvin and Subtle.
Yes, calvinandsubtle.com is where you need to go to get your hardwood floors. They service people out here in Lebanon. It's a quick trip down I-40. They service homes in Clarksville, in Nashville, in Brentwood, in Spring Hill, in Gallatin. I can go on, Mount Juliet. They will service you. And the best part is rip up that old carpet or the hardwood floor you have on there now and get brand new hardwood floors. We feature them on the show all the time. I should have brought one locked and loaded, carry it with me all the time. I love that Angelino look. And if you know about Angelino, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm not talking about Italian pizza or pasta. I'm talking about the pristine hardwood floors that you can have in your kitchen, your den, your living room. calvinandsubtle.com here in the Middle Tennessee area.
A to Z Sports here live. Don't forget Mandu, the Pulse of Fitness. Check them out. Your first workout is free at mandu.com. It's a 15-minute workout of full body electronic muscle stimulation. Mandu.com. We'll be there on Friday. Your first workout, absolutely free. Throwing shade. Justin says those clouds are throwing shade. I'm about to throw a little bit more than shade.
I know.
But Zach, throwing shade here on this Wednesday. What is your shade?
All right, I'm going to go quick because it is starting to rain, and we have electronics out here, and I am the IT guy, so I make the decisions. Here's my, and we'll give credit where credit is due. Pardon My Take, Barstool's podcast, which I absolutely love. I watch or listen to religiously. I was listening to on the way up here, and they brought up something, and I had to check it out. The Braves have a new mascot. His name is Blooper. Blooper eerily resembles a rival mascot. So, Austin, if you look at your screen, I'm going to ask fair or foul. I say this is absolutely foul. Blooper, as you can see, looks exactly like the Philly Fanatics' cousin.
Yeah, that's bad.
That's a no-no. You're rivals. That doesn't make any sense. Blooper is like the stepbrother of the Philly Fanatic. And the Philly Fanatic is so iconic to baseball.
Yep.
That's the big thing, right? It's like the Flyers mascot. What's Googly Eye's name? You remember?
Grimmy.
Grimmy. They're half-brothers. Or like incest. I don't know. He kind of looks weird. Philly Fanatic greater than Blooper, the Braves mascot. That's absolutely foul. Shade right there. Shade. So shade. Blue Braves.
I messed it
Blue
up.
Blooper.
It's gritty. Gritty is the gritty. Grimmy, gritty.
Grizzly.
Who gives them? You know what? So I think, nobody does mascots in sports like the city of Philadelphia. I just agree with that because of those two guys.
And I'm not a big Philly guy. Actually, I'm not a Philly guy at all.
Right, but everybody knows
the Fanatic.
Gritty is a phenomenon over the last several years since he was born. And the Philly Fanatic is that. He is a fanatic, and he is the best mascot that baseball has, and there's nobody that can argue that. Besides Shade going for these clouds that are crept in, and we're not supposed to be here until noon, my shade, Zach, goes to your guy, Chris Sims, for having Justin Fields drafted 32nd overall by the Bucks. That is the most ridiculous mock we have seen this entire year.
Well, he also said that he thinks that Zach Wilson's better than Trevor Lawrence. He's had some hot takes.
He's had some hot takes.
But he did say Mac Jones was going to go 3 of the 49ers. That made me feel even better about the puka shell necklace and the bet with Big Ten Jeff.
But like Justin Fields 32nd, like let's at least not make a mockery of the mock drafts.
All right, so let's at least not get rained on.
Yep.
Great show. The timing is everything. We are
gotta go
out of there. We got